Chapter 741. Hearing those words, Lin Jiej shot a glance at Liang Jusi before replying nonchalantly, "I just received a call." Believing his words, Liang Jusi replied with an "oh." There was no sign of Lin Jiej lying at all. When he spoke once more, his voice was exceptionally calm and composed. "What about you?" "Me? I'm going out to buy a pack of cigarettes." Lin Jiej replied with an before shooting a glance at the door, gesturing for Liang Jusi to hurry up. Seemingly understanding the hint in Lin Jiej's eyes, Liang Jusi quickly left. Lin Jiej lingered in the resting area for a while longer. Seeing that Shi Yao hadn't returned yet, he went to the underground parking lot to get his car. He drove slowly to the roadside and parked at the spot where Shi Yao had gotten out of the car. She followed him all the way here, but she still didn't manage to enter. Rolling down the car window, Lin Jiej stared at the empty space where Shi Yao's figure had disappeared for a very long time before he finally suppressed the slight disappointment in his heart. Rolling up the car window, he stepped on the accelerator once more and drove away. The traffic was relatively good at night, so it only took Shi Yao an hour and 15 minutes to reach the district hospital near her home. Shi Yao hurriedly ran to the nurse's station and gave them her father's name. After learning which ward her father was in, she quickly took the elevator up. When she reached the ward, Shi Yao didn't even bother to knock on the door before pushing it open and rushing in. There was a needle in her father's arm, and he was lying motionlessly on the bed. Her mother was sitting by his side, her eyes red and swollen from crying. Upon seeing this sight, Shi Yao's heart clenched in pain. She quickly rushed to the bedside. Perhaps it was due to the recent conflict, but Shi Yao's expression was a little unnatural. Nevertheless, she still called out softly, "Dad." Hearing Shi Yao's voice, Father Shi opened his eyes weakly and glanced at her. "Yao Yao." His voice was very gentle, just like before she'd seen him quarreling with her mother. It was the same loving tone he used to speak to her. Hearing those words, Shi Yao's eyes reddened. "Dad, how are you feeling?" Shi Yao turned to her mother and asked, "Mom, what happened to Dad?" Mrs. Shi wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes. "After your dad finished dinner, he went to take a shower. I was washing the dishes in the kitchen when I heard a thud. Then, I pushed open the bathroom door and saw your dad unconscious on the floor." "Shi Yao, what did the doctor say? Is it serious?" "Mother Shi, it's not serious, but I'm afraid I'll have to take medicine all year round in the future. Also, I asked about the price of that medicine, and it's very expensive. It doesn't matter if it's expensive. I'll think of a way. You don't have to worry about it. The main thing is to let my father recover. That still costs a lot of money. Your father doesn't even have a proper job." As Mother Shi spoke, she exchanged glances with Father Shi before continuing, "Yao Yao, if your marriage with Jiej hadn't been called off, your father might have been able to see a better doctor and take better medicine. But now..." Mama Shi reached out to wipe her tears and sighed. Had it been some time ago, Shi Yao would have definitely rejected such words from her mother and refused to talk to her. But now that her father was already in such a state, even though she still felt uncomfortable hearing those words, she didn't talk back. The ward fell silent for a moment before Mother Shi spoke up once more. "Yao Yao, is there really no hope between you and Jiej?" Chapter 742. How are you going to earn money? You're still in school. After replying to Shi Yao's question, Mother Shi quickly changed the topic back to the original topic. "Your father and I went to look for Grandpa Lin a few days ago, but he didn't seem to be interested in your marriage." Shi Yao frowned. Not only did they fail to look for her, they even went to look for Grandpa Lin. She was displeased, but she still tried her best to suppress it. Seeing that Shi Yao wasn't responding, Mother Shi continued, "Yao Yao, can't you look for Jiej? Look, this isn't the first time I've begged you for this matter. Your father is sick now, and the family is in dire need of money. For your father's sake, can't you look for Jiej instead? Your father and I have brought you up, but we've never placed our hopes on you. Do you really have the heart to treat us like this? Yao Yao, I know that you're a filial child. You've always listened to me since you were young, so listen to me one more time, all right? Just apologize to Jiej and apologize to him. If you really can't do it, you can look for Grandpa Lin. Grandpa Lin dotes on you the most, so as long as you step forward, he'll definitely help you." Back then, Didn't Grandpa Lin help you settle the matter when Jiej refused to get engaged to you? Yao Yao, just give Jiej a call. It's settled then. I'll help you make the call, all right? As Mother Shi spoke, she reached into Shi Yao's bag and took out her phone. Since the phone was locked, Mother Shi couldn't use it. Thus, she passed the phone over to Shi Yao and had her unlock it. Yao Yao, unlock it. Shi Yao pursed her lips as she stared at the phone, not moving for a long time. Yao Yao, unlock it. Mother Shi urged once more, but seeing that there was still no response, she picked up Shi Yao's hand and placed her thumb on the phone. Just as Shi Yao's fingertips were about to touch the screen, Shi Yao suddenly reached out and snatched the phone from her mother's hand. Then, she freed herself from her mother's grip. Yao Yao, didn't we agree to call Jiej? As Mother Shi spoke, she reached out to grab Shi Yao's hand once more. This time, Shi Yao didn't wait for her mother to touch her before she took a step back. She thought that she had made her intentions clear, but it seemed like her parents still didn't understand what she was trying to say. Taking a deep breath, she repeated what she had said before. I won't call Lin Jiej because I didn't do anything wrong. There's no need for me to apologize to him. We don't have that much money, but we can rely on our own efforts to earn money. The Lin family's money is the Lin family's. We have no obligation to think of ways to get money from the Lin family. That was what she had said to her parents the last time they met. However, her words were much more resolute after that. She had said, I will never be with Lin Jiej again, so you should just give up on me. But this time, when those words reached Shi Yao's lips, she hesitated. She paused for a moment before continuing, regardless of whether Lin Jiej and I end up together or not, I won't allow you to do such a thing. Chapter 743. Yes, you're right. As your daughter, I have the responsibility to give you money to spend and show filial piety to you. As your son-in-law, he has the responsibility to do the same as well. However, you should know very well that this has never been a matter of obligation. Back then, if Grandpa Lin hadn't offered a betrothal gift of 1,000,000 RMB, if the Lin family's financial situation was even worse than ours, would you have agreed to this marriage? I don't agree to your way of doing things because I'm not a money tree, and Lin Jiej isn't an ATM. Hearing Shi Yao's long speech, Papa Shi's face reddened in anger. You unfilial daughter. You. He pointed at Shi Yao and stammered for a long time. But in the end, he turned to Mother Shi and said, It's all because of your good daughter. It's no wonder why people say that a married daughter is like spilled water. You haven't even gotten married yet, but you're already siding with an outsider. Mother Shi, who had been scolded for no reason, also grew angry. Why are you so fierce to me? It's as if I'm the only one who gave birth to your daughter. I told you long ago that it's impossible for your daughter to change her mind, but you were the one who refused to give up. You shamelessly went to the Lin family again and again, and when you saw that you couldn't get through to the Lin family, you pretended to be sick and pitiful so that your daughter would look for Jiej instead. What does it have to do with me now that your daughter has rejected you? Pretending to be sick? Hearing those words, Shi Yao didn't say a word. Instead, she lowered her eyes to conceal the darkness and disappointment in them. It has nothing to do with you. Soon, I'll have nothing to do with you. If it's nothing to do with you, then it's nothing to do with me. It's precisely because my daughter was going to marry into the Lin family that I made do with you. Now, I don't want to spend another day with you anymore. But let's just stop here. We'll head to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow to settle the divorce procedures. Fine. Let me tell you, if you don't divorce me, you'll be my grandson. Her parents kept insisting on a divorce, and they argued to the point where they couldn't bear it anymore. Shi Yao listened to their argument for a while, but eventually, she couldn't take it anymore, so she left the ward without saying a word. As if they didn't notice her leaving, they continued arguing, and their words became even more unpleasant to the ears. Walking out of the ward, Shi Yao closed the door behind her and walked to the elevator. She could still vaguely hear her parents scolding her. Perhaps they had disturbed the patients by the side, so a nurse had rushed over to stop them. Feigning ignorance, Shi Yao stepped into the elevator and headed to the first floor. After exiting the building, she casually found a chair in the hospital garden and sat down. Chapter 744. It didn't take long for the call to go through, and the beep from the other end jolted Shi Yao awake. She actually called Lin Jiej earlier. She instinctively wanted to hang up the call, but the person on the other end had already picked up the call before she could. Yao Yao. Even though they had met on his birthday a few days ago, when Shi Yao heard Lin Jiej's voice once more, she couldn't help but feel as if a century had passed since then. She couldn't help but feel conflicted. Perhaps it was due to Shi Yao's silence, but Lin Jiej spoke up once more. Yao Yao? Only then did Shi Yao realize that Lin Jiej's voice carried a hint of drowsiness. She subconsciously tightened her grip on her phone as she replied in embarrassment. You're already asleep? I'm sorry, I didn't know. I didn't mean to wake you up. I'm not asleep yet. I'm just preparing to sleep, Lin Jiej replied swiftly. His reply left Shi Yao at a loss for words. She replied with an "oh" before falling silent. A few seconds later, she finally realized that he was preparing to sleep. Where was he going to sleep? With this thought in mind, Shi Yao blurted out, "Where are you going to sleep? HM?" On the other end of the call, Lin Jiej seemed to be taken aback by the question. It took a long while before he replied softly, "At my house? You're sleeping alone?" Of course he was sleeping alone. Was she supposed to be sleeping with him? Lin Jiej subconsciously wanted to reply to Shi Yao's question, but just as the words were about to come out of his mouth, he suddenly recalled that he had waited for her at the Golden Resplendence for a very long time, but she didn't come in at all. Now that she was calling him and asking him these questions, was she here to check on him? Lin Jiej stared at the ceiling, feeling as if he was in a dream. Shi Yao waited for a moment, but there was no response from Lin Jiej's end. She grew increasingly nervous. Could he have brought Liang Xiao home? With this thought in mind, Shi Yao asked, "Lin Jiej?" Lin Jiej hurriedly replied before replying, "What else could it be? If I'm not alone, could it be that there are two of you? Who knows? Today, At this point, Shi Yao hurriedly covered her mouth. She had almost exposed the fact that she had been following him. Other people were tricked into revealing their whereabouts, but she was always the one who confessed without being forced to do so. Even if she didn't say anything, Lin Jiej could already guess what she was going to say next. Nevertheless, he still intentionally asked, "What's wrong today?" It's nothing. Shi Yao replied swiftly due to her guilty conscience. "I see." Lin Jiej nodded in realization. "I thought that you met me today." Shi Yao felt even more guilty upon hearing those words. Her tone grew heavier as she tried to sound confident. No, how could that be possible? I am at home right now." On the other end of the call, Lin Jiej's lips couldn't help but curl up upon hearing her panicked voice. A moment later, he hung up the call. Shi Yao stared at the screen of her phone as she blinked her eyes several times. Was it because the signal was bad and the call was cut, or it was inconvenient on his side and he hung up on her? Chapter 745. Shi Yao didn't take a closer look at the call. She swiftly picked up the call, and it was only when Lin Jiej's handsome face appeared on the screen that she realized that Lin Jiej had switched to a video call. Shi Yao opened her mouth to ask Lin Jiej why he had switched to a video call, but Lin Jiej's lips had already moved. "I'm really alone at home. If you don't believe me, I'll show you." As he said those words, he swiveled the phone's camera in all directions. He showed Shi Yao room after room. He even showed her the washroom, changing room, closet, and even the toilet bowl. Shi Yao suddenly recalled how Zuan had been ignoring her ever since the first time they left Mountain Changming. When she went to deliver eggs to his house under her mother's request, his door was locked from the inside. Lin Jai had kicked down the door, and when she searched the entire house for him, she had searched through the toilet bowl as well. It seemed like they were really family. Recalling this incident, Shi Yao couldn't help but burst into laughter. Hearing her laughter, Lin Jiej switched the phone's camera from the toilet bowl to his face. Yao, I didn't lie to you, did I? I'm really alone at home." But before he could finish his words, he suddenly paused. 3 short seconds later, with a slight frown on his forehead, he asked once more, Yao, why are you still outdoors at such a late hour?" Before Shi Yao called Lin Jiej, she had been feeling extremely downcast. Even though it hadn't been long since their conversation, she was no longer as depressed as before. However, Upon hearing his question, she couldn't help but be reminded of her parents once more. She only said a single word, but she suddenly found herself at a loss for words. In the end, she simply looked at the phone screen and, as if nothing had happened at all, she continued, "I'm just taking a walk outside." Lin Jiej didn't say a word. Instead, he stared intently at her through the phone. For some reason, Shi Yao felt a little guilty under his gaze, and she subconsciously lowered her eyes. But even so, Lin Jiej still noticed that something was amiss. "Yao Yao, did something happen?" "Nothing." Shi Yao hurriedly shook her head. It would have been better if he hadn't asked that question, but the moment he did, she felt even worse. Her biological parents had been arguing so fiercely that they didn't even notice her sadness when she left. Yet, a person who wasn't related to her by blood could easily sense the changes in her emotions through the phone. Tears welled up in Shi Yao's eyes, and she didn't dare to raise her head anymore. "I'm really fine." Lin Jiej didn't reply. Instead, he stared intently at her surroundings. Because it was too dark, there were many places that he couldn't see clearly, but he caught the word hospital behind her right ear. His whole body suddenly tensed up. "Yao Yao, why are you in hospital? Are you not feeling well?" Shi Yao's fingers subconsciously tightened around her phone. "It's not me, it's my dad." Shi Yao paused for a moment before continuing. "It's getting late, so you should rest early. I'll be hanging up now." Then, without raising her head, she pressed the button to hang up the call. She couldn't tell if she was disappointed or relieved, but she continued to sit quietly outside in the deep autumn night. She couldn't tell if she was disappointed or relieved. She continued to sit quietly outside in the late autumn. Chapter 746. She had no idea how much time had passed when she vaguely heard hurried footsteps behind her. Shi Yao instinctively turned her head over, and she saw Lin Jiej hurriedly walking toward her under the moonlight. It was only when Lin Jiej stopped right in front of her that Shi Yao blinked her eyes. She stared at him blankly for a very long time before she stood up in disbelief. "You?" Shi Yao only managed to utter a single word before Lin Jiej, who had been looking for her for some time, interjected, "Why are you still outside at such a late hour?" As he spoke, he took off his coat and draped it over Shi Yao's shoulders. "The temperature is so low at night. You'll catch a cold." Shi Yao's words were stuck in her throat, and she was unable to say anything else. Following that, she couldn't help but feel indescribably touched. "He didn't call again after I hung up on him. Did he find out where she was and rushed over to look for her personally? But this is the suburbs. It's only been half an hour since their call ended, so he's been speeding the entire time?" After buttoning up Shi Yao's coat one by one, Lin Jiej looked into Shi Yao's eyes and asked, "Right? You said on the phone earlier that your father is hospitalized? Is his condition serious? How is he now? Do you need me to arrange for a better hospital in the city to transfer him to?" Hearing Lin Jiej's questions, Shi Yao felt her throat getting even more stifled, and her eyes stung even more. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Seeing her reaction, Lin Jiej thought that she was worried about her father, so he shot a glance at the hospital building and said, "Forget it. I'll go take a look myself. If it's serious, I can arrange for your father to be transferred to another hospital tonight." Without any hesitation, Shi Yao tugged on Lin Jiej's sleeves in an attempt to stop him from heading to the hospital building to see her father. Lin Jiej didn't get Shi Yao's intention, so he turned to look at her and said, "You don't have to worry too much. Do you remember the doctor who treated my grandfather back then? He has 4 doctorates in the medical world, so as long as it's not a problem that's too difficult to deal with, he should be able to solve it." "No, I'm not worried about my father." Lin Jiej turned around and replied with a perplexed hum. Shi Yao didn't know how she should explain it to Lin Jiej. She stared at Lin Jiej's eyes for a moment before saying, "Don't go up." "What's wrong?" Lin Jiej asked with a slight frown. "In any case, you just don't want to go up." Shi Yao also felt that she was being unreasonable, but she really couldn't think of anything else to say at this point. Lin Jiej stared at Shi Yao for a moment longer, as he recalled the words Lung Wan had said to him on the phone back then. Could it be that she had some kind of disagreement with her parents because he broke off the engagement with her? But even though he was perplexed, he didn't pursue the matter any further. "All right then, I won't go up." However, why don't you follow me back to the car? It's really too cold here. If I stay any longer, I'll really get sick. This time, Shi Yao didn't turn down his offer. Instead, she nodded her head lightly. Chapter 747. After returning to the car, Lin Jiej first started the engine and switched on the heater before heading to the trunk to take out 2 bottles of water. He unscrewed the cap of one of the bottles, twisted it shut, and passed it over to Shi Yao. Thank you, Shi Yao replied before taking the water from Zhang Xian. After sitting in the car for a while, Lin Jiej pondered over his words for a moment before asking, Did something unpleasant happen? Shi Yao didn't say a word. However, through her eyes, Lin Jiej could tell that she seemed to have suffered some grievance. While his heart ached for her, he didn't force her to ask about the situation. In an instant, the car fell silent. Lin Jiej had no idea how long he had been sitting quietly in the car with Shi Yao, but he couldn't bear to see her remain silent for too long. So, he fell into deep thought. Eventually, he recalled what she liked to eat. So he broke the silence in the car and said, Do you want to grab some supper? Shi Yao still didn't say a word. Lin Jiej didn't mind at all. I know a place that sells kebabs until 2 in the morning. It's really delicious. Shi Yao remained silent. Lin Jiej patiently continued, You don't like kebabs? How about some crayfish? Malatang? Beef noodle? It doesn't seem that late yet. It's only been a few hours since we had dinner. Are you still not that hungry? I guess so. Let's wait for a while then. Tell me when you're hungry, and I'll bring you there. Listening to Lin Jiej's monologue for so long, Shi Yao suddenly felt tears flowing down her cheeks. He was trying to coax her, but why did he end up making her cry instead? Lin Jiej immediately panicked. Why are you crying all of a sudden? Did I say something wrong earlier? I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. I was wrong. As he apologized profusely, Shi Yao's tears flowed even more furiously. She hadn't cried even as she watched her parents quarrel in her room, but listening to his words at this moment, she couldn't control her emotions anymore. Yao Yao, it's all right now. Stop crying. Lin Jiej had never coaxed a girl before, and his sharp tongue made him incredibly clumsy at this moment. No matter how he tried, all he could say were the same words. Seeing that she was crying more and more fiercely, he quickly grabbed a tissue to wipe away her tears. It was fortunate that Shi Yao didn't cry for too long. It didn't take long for her tears to stop flowing. As if he had just escaped death, Lin Jiej heaved a sigh of relief. Noticing Zhang Xian's reaction, Shi Yao's eyes welled up once more, but this time, she didn't cry. Due to the previous incident where he had tried to coax her, only to end up making her cry instead, Lin Jiej didn't dare to open his mouth easily anymore. It was unusually quiet in the car. All the way until the latter half of the night, Shi Yao sneaked a peek at Lin Jiej, and seeing that he was still looking at her with a nervous expression, her heart suddenly softened. She pursed her lips slightly. After a while, she finally took the initiative to say, My dad and mom, they're getting a divorce. Lin Jiej was initially overjoyed that she was finally willing to speak up, but after hearing the contents of her words, his heart suddenly ached. It was no wonder why she looked so unhappy tonight. So that was the reason. Actually, I already knew that they were at odds with each other. If Grandpa Lin hadn't come knocking on my door and told me about our engagement, they might have already gotten a divorce by then. Chapter 748. I know that everyone has the right to choose how they want to live, and I know that I shouldn't impose my thoughts on them. For my own sake, I didn't want them to get a divorce, but I really don't want them to get a divorce either. I feel that as long as Dad and Mom are together, I still have a home. If they're not together, I'll have no home at all. If I had listened to them and looked for you and coaxed you, they might not have ended up like this. But I don't want them to. You don't know, but when they look for me, they never ask me how I'm doing in school. As soon as they open their mouths, they'll talk about you. I feel that the reason they've treated me so well all these years is because of your family. If not for your family, would they have abandoned me a long time ago? Perhaps it was because it was a little difficult for her to talk about her family's situation. She stuttered as she spoke. From the start to the end, Lin Jiej didn't interrupt her at all. He simply sat quietly by the side and listened attentively. Initially, her parents treated her very well, and she thought that she had a blissful family even though they weren't that wealthy. But later on, when she learned of their true thoughts, she couldn't accept it and felt terrible. Later on, she even said that she didn't want to be a money tree. She didn't think that she was important to her parents at all. In order for her to marry well, her father even went as far as to feign illness. In truth, he had already learned a lot about these things from Lung Wan. But now that she was telling him about it, it was as if he was listening to a business proposal. He listened to every single word she said in great detail. She spoke a lot, and it was likely that she had vented out all of the discomfort she had been suppressing in her heart. In the end, her tone had clearly become much more relaxed, and the aggrieved look on her face had dissipated by more than half. It's been so many years since they've separated. I should be happy, shouldn't I? No matter what, I'm the only one who's left now that I've grown up. At the very least, it's better than when I was young. I should really be happy, shouldn't I? As she spoke, she turned to Lin Jiej and squeezed out a smile. She was probably tired from talking too much, so she didn't say anything else after asking that question. However, her final words struck a chord in Lin Jiej's heart. For a moment, Lin Jiej didn't know how he should respond to her words. He looked at her little face that was forcing a smile, and his throat felt like it was being choked by something. It was very painful. A moment later, Lin Jiej forcefully suppressed the soreness in his heart and moved his lips. That can't be. How could you be the only one left? Even if you were the only one left, I would still accompany you. I will also accompany you. Hearing those simple words, Shi Yao's eyes reddened once more. Why are you crying again? Lin Jiej asked anxiously. No. Shi Yao shook her head. She waited for her emotions to stabilize a little before asking once more, what do you think I should do in the future? Lin Jiej reached out to stroke Shi Yao's fringe as he asked gently, what do you want to do? I don't know. Shi Yao replied softly before adding, if they really divorce, I don't want to stay at home anymore. Where do you want to live? Chapter 749. Sure. If you don't mind, I can even help you look for a house. Really? Shi Yao asked hesitantly. Of course. Not only can I help you look for a house, I can even help you decorate your home. I can accompany you to pick out any furniture you want, and I can even help you clean up the place. A hint of a smile surfaced in Lin Jiej's eyes. Don't tell me that I'm the one who said that I'm going to help you. As long as you ask for my help, I'll agree to anything you want me to do. Shi Yao felt that Lin Jiej's words sounded too much like a fairy tale, and she found it hard to believe. She stared at Lin Jiej for a moment before asking softly, anything I want? As long as it's within my means, I'll do anything, Lin Jiej said solemnly, as if making a vow. Then, Shi Yao gulped down a mouthful of saliva. You said earlier that you'll bring me to eat skewers, crayfish, mala soup, and denim rice noodles. Does that still count? If it had been any other woman, she would surely have made use of this opportunity to make a high demand. But she? Soft bun was indeed soft bun. Lin Jiej burst into laughter. Of course it does. Which do you want to eat? I'll bring you there right now. I want to eat all of them. Shi Yao was a little embarrassed, but she was also a little afraid that her suggestion would be too unreasonable. Her fingers uneasily clasped the seatbelt of the car before she muttered softly, why don't I just eat 3 dishes? As she said those words, Shi Yao turned to look at Lin Jiej with uneasiness in her eyes as she compromised. 2? Let's have denim rice noodles then. At the end of her words, Shi Yao lowered her head pitifully, and her grip on her seatbelt tightened. Looking at Shi Yao's adorable appearance, a gentle smile surfaced on Lin Jiej's face. Without any hesitation, he said, it's fine. We'll eat all of them. After which, he started the car. After driving for a distance, Shi Yao still felt a little uneasy. She couldn't help but ask, Lin Jiej, don't you think that my request was a little too much? You can go even further. For example, think of 4 more that you want to eat, or even 40. As long as you can eat it, it's fine, provided that you don't waste food. Hearing Lin Jiej's words, Shi Yao replied with a hop before a smile crept up her face. Seeing her smile, Lin Jiej stared straight ahead at the road ahead and smiled as well. The car sped forward for a while before a thought suddenly struck Lin Jiej, and he said, I like it when you're so overboard. Because of this, I feel that you have a place in my heart. His voice was so soft that Yao didn't notice his words at all. The car remained silent as it continued driving forward. It didn't take long for them to enter the city, and it didn't take long before they arrived at the restaurant where Yao wanted to eat denim rice noodles. Lin Jiej really accompanied Yao as they went from denim noodles to crayfish, and then from crayfish to mala soup. As the skewer shop he had mentioned closed at 2 in the morning, Lin Jiej brought Yao to another skewer shop that was still open at night. By the time he finished all the food, the sky was already bright. Chapter 750. Yao hesitated for a moment before voicing out her concerns. But it's still early, and the dormitory isn't open yet. Besides, there's a good chance that someone might see me staying out last night. It's not too far from my place. Do you want to sleep over there? Yao pondered for a moment before nodding her head. Seeing that she had agreed to it, Lin Jiej stepped on the accelerator and drove all the way to the underground parking lot of his apartment building. After returning home, Lin Jiej passed Yao a pair of slippers before heading to the storage room. After Yao was done changing her slippers, Lin Jiej passed her a brand new toothpaste, toothbrush, and cup. You can sleep in the same bedroom as before. The shower gel and other stuff you used in the past are still there, but there's no need to change the bed sheets. Annie just washed them yesterday, and the mites were removed. The towel and towel are still here too. At this point, Lin Jiej seemed to have thought of something, and he quickly told Yao, "Wait a moment for me," before heading back to his bedroom. A moment later, he returned with a white t-shirt and said, "You can use this as your pajamas." Yao nodded her head in acknowledgement before carrying the things Lin Jiej had given her and headed to the bedroom she was going to sleep in. But barely after she took a few steps, Lin Jiej suddenly called out to her, "Right, Yao Yao?" Yao turned around and asked, "What's wrong?" Lin Jiej raised his wrist to take a look at the time. "I have a meeting at 9:30 a.m., so I'll probably be heading out between 8:30 a.m. and 9 a.m. Just go ahead and sleep, but there might be no one at home when you wake up, so you can do whatever you want." Yao replied with an "oh" to indicate that she understood. After which, she asked, "Is there anything else?" Lin Jiej fell silent for a moment before shaking his head. Yao pushed open the door and entered the bedroom. As soon as Yao stepped out of the shower, she immediately fell asleep on the bed. She had no idea how long she had slept for, but she could vaguely hear the sound of a door closing. She continued lying on the bed for a while longer before recalling that Lin Jiej had said that he would be heading out at around 9 a.m. Without any hesitation, she quickly pulled off her blanket and ran out of the room in her slippers. Lin Jiej, who had spent the entire night accompanying her, had only slept for 4 hours. At this moment, he was already dressed and standing in the dining room, brewing a cup of coffee. Upon seeing Yao, Lin Jiej asked in bewilderment, "Why aren't you sleeping?" Yao glanced at the water dispenser by the side and came up with a random excuse. "I'm thirsty." Without saying a word, Lin Jiej put down his coffee cup, picked up a cup of warm water, and passed it over to Yao. Lin Jiej picked up the cup of coffee and drank half of it to refresh himself before putting it down. "I'll be heading out now. You should head back and rest for a while after you're done drinking," Yao replied with an as she sipped from her cup of water. Lin Jiej didn't stay any longer. He grabbed his laptop and documents, and just as he was about to leave, the phone in his pocket suddenly rang. Hearing the commotion, Yao turned to look at him. Upon seeing the caller ID, Lin Jiej's footsteps abruptly halted. Without any hesitation, he pressed on the button to accept the call. "Liang Xiao, Liang Xiao." Upon hearing those 2 words, Yao subconsciously pricked up her ears. She even stopped drinking her water and focused her attention on eavesdropping on Lin Jiej's call. Chapter 751. Liang Xiao. Upon hearing those 2 words, Yao subconsciously pricked up her ears. She even stopped drinking her water and focused all her attention on Lin Jiej's phone call. Lin Jiej's back was facing her, making it impossible for him to see her at all. But in truth, he was discreetly assessing her through a mirror not too far away. When he noticed the tense look on Liang Xiao's face after he spoke those words, his lips couldn't help but curl up into a smile. After hearing Liang Xiao's words, he intentionally conveyed the meaning behind her words to the young lady behind him, Do I have time tonight? Lin Jiej's attention had been focused on Shiyao the entire time. So when he saw her turn to look at him through the mirror, he calmly replied to Liang Zhao's question, I think so. What's wrong? As he said those words, Lin Jiej noticed a slight frown on Shiyao's forehead, seemingly dissatisfied with his answer. But he was very satisfied with her reaction. In order not to expose himself, he forcefully pressed down on the curve of his lips. Just like before, he deliberately repeated Liang Zhao's words before replying to her. Eat? Sure. Shiyao's hand trembled, causing a large portion of the water in her cup to spill out. Hearing the commotion, Lin Jiej feigned ignorance as he turned his head over to look at Shiyao. Meeting his questioning gaze, Shiyao feigned a composed expression as she waved her hands casually. Then, as if she had accidentally placed the cup on the table, she took out 2 napkins and calmly wiped away the water on her wrists. Seeing as Shiyao was completely fine, Lin Jiej pretended not to see anything and continued speaking into his phone. What time is it tonight? 6:30? Sure, no problem. Oh right, who's there? Lin Jiej intentionally paused for a moment before replying. Just me and you? To Liang Xiao, who had been silent all this while, Lin Jiej's words were strung together as a single sentence. Who's there for dinner? Is it just me and you? But to Shiyao, it was as if Liang Xiao had replied to her words, telling her that it was just the 2 of them, and he was merely repeating her words. As expected, barely after Lin Jiej said those words, a loud pah sounded behind him. He turned around and saw Shiyao knocking the tissue box to the ground. On the other end of the line, Liang Xiao, who was talking about who was having dinner tonight, heard the sound and asked, What's wrong? Lin Jiej replied nonchalantly, It's nothing much. I just accidentally knocked something over. If there's nothing else, I'll be hanging up now. After Liang Xiao hung up the call, Lin Jiej shot a glance at Shiyao, who was squatting on the floor, picking up the tissue boxes. Speaking into the busy tone in his earpiece, he said, All right, I'll see you there tonight. There was another pah sound. The tissue box that Shiyao had just picked up fell heavily to the ground once more. The tissue box was made of a special material. It was neither plastic nor porcelain, so it was quite resistant to knocks. However, after falling to the ground twice in a row, it broke into pieces. Chapter 752. It's fine. After replying, Lin Jiej realized that there was nothing else he could say other than it. After all, even if she did it on purpose, he wouldn't dare to do anything to her. If she wanted to fall, he could only let her fall. If she didn't like it, he would have to get down from the horse and fall with her until she was happy. Otherwise, what else could he do? With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej said, Don't bother with these things. The cleaning auntie will be here soon. She'll clean up the mess. As he spoke, Lin Jiej raised his wrist to take a look at the time. It's already 9 o'clock. I have to head out now. You should head back to your room and get some sleep. Seeing that Lin Jiej was about to leave, Shiyao subconsciously called out, Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej turned to look at Shiyao and asked, What's wrong? Shiyao pursed her lips and asked, Do you have a dinner date with someone? Lin Jiej enjoyed Shiyao's question very much. He was overjoyed inside, but on the surface, he maintained a calm demeanor and replied, I have a dinner date with a friend I haven't seen for many years. Oh, Shiyao replied with a muffled voice. Lin Jiej knew that she had many questions she wanted to ask him, but there wasn't much time left, and it wasn't a bad idea to make her anxious like this. Thus, before Shiyao could speak, he spoke up, Yao, if there's anything you want to say, can we talk about it later? I really don't have much time on my end. I have to go now. As he spoke, Lin Jiej raised his hand and stroked Shiyao's head. You, don't just stand here. Hurry up and head back to your room to catch up on your sleep. I'll be leaving now. Without giving Shiyao a chance to speak, Lin Jiej finished his words in a single breath, after which he walked to the entrance, changed into his shoes, and waved his hand at Shiyao, who was staring at him with a look of hesitation. After which, he pushed open the door and left without a backward glance. Shiyao stood alone in the empty living room for a very long time before she dragged her slightly heavy footsteps back to her room absent-mindedly. Lying on her bed and closing her eyes, Her mind was filled with the conversation between Lin Jie and Liang Xiao. She tossed and turned for a very long time, but no matter how hard she tried, she just couldn't fall asleep. He had a dinner date with Liang Xiao, and just like last night, it was still just the two of them. He even told her that he wouldn't leave until he left for work. Why didn't he tell her that he wouldn't leave until he left? With such thoughts in mind, Yao flipped her body over and hugged her blanket tightly. She kicked her legs angrily as she cursed Lin Jie in her heart. After which, she stared out the window and began to daydream once more. While Yao's thoughts were running wild, her phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the caller ID and answered the call. Nuan, Yao, why aren't you back at school yet? Did you forget that it's Tiantian's birthday today? We've agreed to celebrate her birthday at noon, right? Lung Wan's reminder reminded Yao that it was really Tiantian's birthday today. She took a look at the time, and it was already noon. She immediately stood up and said, "If you didn't tell me, I would have forgotten about it. You three should head to the dining room first. I'll be leaving right now. Let's meet at the dining room later." Chapter 753. Tiantian's birthday was already half a month ago, and the dormitory had already decided on what to eat. However, due to Yao's late departure, Lung Wan, Jiang Yu, and Tian were already waiting for her by the time she arrived. After taking a seat, Yao took the menu from Lung Wan and ordered 2 more dishes. After the waiter left, Jiang Yu and Tian stared at Yao with malicious gazes, asking her where she went last night. Faced with Jiang Yu and Tian's relentless questioning, Yao remained silent, however. Before Jiang Yu and Tian could bring out their trump card and threaten Yao with snacks, their attention was drawn away by a conversation at the table beside them. The first to speak up was the male student sitting behind Tian. "Do you know? I have a buddy who confessed to his wife on their wedding anniversary. He spent a huge sum of money to confess to his wife on the big screen of the most prosperous office building in the city. That's 100,000 renminbi per hour, and he spent a total of 5 hours on the big screen." The next to speak was another man sitting at the same table. "That's nothing. I have a friend who flew 9,999 roses over to his girlfriend's birthday. That's hundreds of thousands of RMB, and it's his girlfriend, not his wife." Hearing those words, Tian and Jiang Yu couldn't help but huddle together and whisper among themselves. "Jiang Yu, say, do you think they're telling the truth or just making things up? Is there really such a generous man in the world?" Tian, "I'm perplexed as well. Let me tell you, I often see women showing off their diamonds and bags when I browse through Little Red Book. The phrase they often use is 'my husband gave it to me,' 'my boyfriend gave it to me.' Say, where in the world did they get their husbands and boyfriends from? Tell me so that I can get one too. Jiang Yu, +1. I also want to get a rich boyfriend or husband like that." Seeing that Yao and Lung Wan weren't cooperating with her at all, Tian suddenly remembered that Yao already had Lin Jie. So she turned to Lung Wan and asked, "Wan, don't you want to get a rich boyfriend like that?" Lung Wan took a sip of fruit juice before replying coldly, "I don't want to. I can become a tycoon myself." While Yao's table was discussing where a nouveau riche's boyfriend or husband could get a reward, another table was also discussing how their brothers were showing off their love. "All of you, shut up and listen to me. That's really low. I have a buddy who's really awesome. You know, I sell antiques, and some of them are really expensive. Then, my buddy called me one day and said that he had an inkstone he wanted to sell at my place. That inkstone is from the Qing dynasty, and it's real. It's very expensive, at least 200,000 yuan in the market. If it's auctioned, it'll probably go even higher. If someone wants to collect it, they'll probably be willing to spend millions." Then, he told me that the next day, a girl would come to my shop to choose an inkstone, and he told me to sell her the 200,000 yuan inkstone for 200 yuan. Hearing those words, Yao, Lung Wan, Jiang Yu, and Tian stared at one another for a long while before they started whispering to one another. "Why does this story sound so familiar? That's right. Didn't Yao buy an inkstone before?" Chapter 754. "You don't say. That boy looks really familiar," Lin Sanju said. "Let me see. Let me see. Ah, he really seems to be the shop owner that Yao Yao bought the inkstone from. Amidst the commotion, Shi Yao also turned her gaze toward the chattering male student. Of course, you'll surely say that 200,000 renminbi is much less than the money spent by those nouveau riche friends of yours. But let me tell you, you're wrong. What I'm trying to say isn't money, but that bro of mine. From the start to the end, he didn't let that girl know who he is. Let me ask you this, are you convinced? Tell me, out of all the people you know, who can do such a thing for a girl silently, spend so much money, and not let her know? Furthermore, that girl isn't his girlfriend or his wife, but the girl he admires. Let me ask you this, are you convinced? Are you convinced? The other male students at the table also spoke up. Yes, yes, yes. Is there a hole in that guy's head? Isn't he being a sucker? Doing good deeds without leaving his name. Is he trying to imitate a pervert? How in the world can he woo a girl like that? Let me tell you, since ancient times, infatuation has always been the only way to win a person's heart. So, no matter what you do, you have to let the other party know. Even if you don't know, you have to find a way to find out so that you can woo your wife, all right? The male student who told the story of the inkstone gulped down a huge mouthful of wine before continuing. I asked my friend the same question, and he replied with one sentence. What did he say? Money can't buy my willingness. The heck, that's a foolish son of a rich family. He has too much money to spend, so he's just flaunting it. Heh, you're right. That friend of mine really has too much money to spend. Let me tell you, he's a top student of G University, and his family background is already impressive. Yet, he's unwilling to just be a second-generation nouveau riche and insists on being a first-generation nouveau riche. Even before graduating from university, he managed to earn hundreds of millions of RMB through his projects. He just registered a company this year, and it seems like it's doing pretty well. At this point, Tian couldn't help but pull Shi Yao's hand and say, Yao Yao, he's talking about Senior Lin. Senior Lin. Zhang Yu. That's right, that's right. It's Senior Lin from G University. He's from a rich family. He doesn't want to be a second-generation rich, but he wants to be a first-generation rich. He's starting a company this year, and everything matches up with Senior Lin. Compared to Zhang Yu and He Tiantian's words, Lung Wan's concern was much more direct. Yao Yao, didn't you say that the person who recommended you to buy the inkstone was an online friend you met in the game? So, that netizen is actually Senior Lin? As Lung Wan's words reached Shi Yao's ears, the chopsticks in her hand suddenly fell onto the table with a kacha. Mr. Numbers had recommended her to buy an inkstone, and he had even told her that the other party was a friend of his, and on his account, the other party would give her a discount. Later on, during Grandpa Lin's birthday banquet, the inkstone that she had stolen for 200 yuan turned out to be an authentic one that was worth 200,000 yuan. At that time, she really didn't think that there was anything wrong with it. She just thought that she had been lucky. But now that she thought about it, there really were a lot of loopholes that day. Chapter 755. Another example was how Lin Jiej had instructed Liang Mu to hold onto her inkstone before inviting an expert over to appraise it. Another example would be how confident Lin Jiej had been the entire time that night. Back then, she was still cursing him for setting her up, but thinking about it now, the reason why he had such a reaction was because everything had been within his grasp. He wasn't setting her up. He had already dug a trap for Liang Mu from the very start, and he was just waiting for her to jump into it. From the start to the end, he had been helping and protecting her. He had allowed her to calmly overcome Liang Mu's trap without having to do anything at all. Also, when she saw the kingdom of snacks on Mountain Changming, she was still perplexed as to how Lin Jiej knew that her dream was to own such a house. Now that she thought about it, he had already given himself away back then. She was too careless and didn't pursue the matter further. She had only told Mr. Numbers about her dream. So, it was just as Lung Wan had said. Mr. Numbers equals Lin Jiej, and Lin Jiej equals Mr. Numbers? Shi Yao couldn't shake the feeling that this was all a dream. She secretly pinched her thigh, and when she felt the pain, she picked up her phone and hurriedly looked for Lin Jiai to send her a WeChat message. Sis Jiai, do you have Lin Jiej's WeChat? Perhaps Lin Jiai was busy, She replied to Shi Yao's message very straightforwardly, sharing her name card. And that name card was one that Shi Yao couldn't be more familiar with. Less than 111,111, Mr. Numbers, who had played games with her for the past 8 months. Mr. Numbers is actually Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej is actually Mr. Numbers. Shi Yao's mind was in a daze for a very long time. Then, it suddenly occurred to her that Mr. Numbers had been bringing her to compete in tournaments to earn money. In other words, Lin Jiej had been bringing her to compete in tournaments to earn money. Why would Lin Jiej suddenly bring her to compete in tournaments to earn money? In her mind, she went through everything that had happened recently from start to finish. After which, she turned to look at Lung Nuan and asked, Nuan, did you tell him about me? Zhang Yu, what matter? He Tian. There's actually a secret between the two of you? I'm not happy. Ignoring Zhang Yu and He Tian, Lung Nuan nodded toward Shi Yao and said, That's right, Yao. However, Yao, I didn't mean to betray you. You should know my personality very well. I've never meddled in other people's affairs. However, the reason why I told him that time was because I wanted to help you. It was because I wanted to help you. But no matter what, Yao, I still owe you an apology. Lung Nuan was right. She knew very well what kind of person she was, and she also knew that Lung Nuan was doing this for her own good. In truth, she wasn't blaming her for asking this question. Rather, she was trying to figure out one thing. Was it really as she thought? After learning about her parents' situation, Lin Jiej knew that she was concerned about the debt of 1 million RMB, so he decided to help her silently. He had always been unwilling to agree to break off the engagement, but that day when they went to Mount Chongming, he agreed. It was also after he found out about this matter that he agreed. He understood her difficulties, so he let go. During this period of time, he had very little interaction with her. She thought that he had already left her world. Only now did she realize that he had never left her. He had always been by her side, silently accompanying her at all times. Chapter 756. An indescribable feeling of gratitude, mixed with intense throbbing, filled Shi Yao's heart in an instant. She thought that in this world, nothing could be more contented than this. There was a person who, from the moment he set his eyes on you, no matter if you stayed by his side or left him, as long as you turned around, he would always be there, never leaving. It didn't take long for the dishes to be served by the waiter. Starving from the long ruckus, Zhang Yu quickly beckoned for everyone to dig in. With the delicacies before them, everyone quickly changed the topic. While enjoying their meal, they didn't forget to wish He Tian an eternal 18 years old. Shi Yao was also eating, and from time to time, she would chat with the others as well. However, her thoughts would also drift toward Lin Jiej from time to time. After lunch, since they didn't have any classes in the afternoon, the 4 girls from the dormitory room headed to a nearby shopping mall. This was something that they had agreed on half a month ago when they were discussing how they should celebrate He Tian's birthday with her. However, throughout the entire shopping trip, Shi Yao had been in a state of absent-mindedness. She would either stop in her tracks as she walked, or someone would call out to her to try on clothes and ask her if they looked good on her. She wouldn't respond no matter how many times they called out to her. Sometimes, someone would find something nice for her to try on and she would take it into the changing room, only to be called out again and again. She was still wearing her original clothes, and the clothes that she had been asked to try on were still in her hands, untouched. Such situations happened too often that even Zhang Yu, who was the slowest among them, noticed that something was amiss with Shi Yao. Yao, what's wrong with you? To be more precise, you've been acting a little weird lately. It's as if you've lost your soul. He Tian leaned over and said, That's right, Yao. Tell me honestly, who stole your soul? Having her thoughts exposed, Shi Yao's face reddened. No, I didn't. Don't spout nonsense. Less than 3 seconds later, Shi Yao took the initiative to speak up once more. Say, what do you think you would do if your souls were taken away by someone else? He Tian had always been a quick-witted person. What else can I do? I'll steal the soul of whoever steals my soul away. This is called exchanging a soul for a soul. Zhang Yu said, You're making it sound so scary. Do you think you're acting in a supernatural story? Hearing Zhang Yu's words, Shi Yao began to ponder over He Tian's words. Whoever steals my soul away. I'll steal their soul away. That's right. Because of Lin Jiej, she had been out of sorts recently, and he, the long-lost old friend of hers, had a meal together last night, and he was going to be there alone tonight. She couldn't allow him to continue like this. Not to mention, this old girl was different from the girls around him. She was the only girl that he had ever taught math problems to in middle school. Besides, Lung Wan had said last night that it took a veil for a woman to pursue a man. It had only been 2 days since Liang Xiao had returned, but he had already asked Lin Jiej out for dinner 2 days in a row. This was a blatant attempt at seduction. If it was really as Lung Wan had said, and Liang Xiao had really done something to her, resulting in a soft and fair carrot appearing, she would really be done for. Chapter 757. With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao couldn't help but blurt out the words in her heart. That's right. No matter what, I can't lose him. He Tian. What? Lose what? Who did you lose? However, Shi Yao didn't pay him any heed. She continued thinking about her own matters. Lung Wan also said that sometimes, the fates between two people could be broken just like that. Take a movie she had watched last year, for example. The male and female lead quarreled over a small matter, and in a fit of pique, the female lead moved out of the male lead's house. The male lead thought that the female lead would come back on her own, and the female lead thought that the male lead would try to persuade her to stay. Just like that, one of them didn't try to persuade her to stay, and the other didn't come back. No matter what, she couldn't allow herself and Lin Jiej to end up in such a state. It was too much of a pity for her to miss him. Besides, one had to fight for one's own happiness. Lin Jiej had confessed to her so many times, so it was only right for her to take the initiative to ask him to stay once. If there were 100 steps between them, and he had already taken 99 of them, why couldn't she take the final step? That's right. I can definitely take the final step. Shi Yao blurted out once more. Zhang Yu, it's over. It's over. Yao Yao has been spouting nonsense all this time. It can't be that she's become a fool after her soul was snatched away, right? Shi Yao glared at Zhang Yu angrily as she replied in her mind, You're the fool. However, she didn't pay any heed to Zhang Yu's words. Instead, she hurriedly said, The 3 of you can enjoy your shopping. I'm leaving now. Zhang Yu. Yao Yao, why are you leaving again? He Tian. That's right. You were like this last night, and you're doing it again now. Stop right there. Don't run away. Ignoring Zhang Yu and He Tian's displeasure, Shi Yao continued running toward the elevator. However, not too long after, she suddenly thought of something and stopped. Am I going to look for Lin Jiej like this? Shi Yao slowly turned around to face a mirror in the display window. She was dressed in a simple sweater, jeans, and sneakers, and her hair was casually tied behind her head. Compared to the meticulously dressed Liang Xiao she had seen last night, she was a world of difference. That Liang Xiao was pretty, but she had dressed up before. Facing the mirror, Shi Yao stood on her tiptoes, pretending that she was wearing high heels. Then, she recalled that she wasn't that much shorter than Liang Xiao. So, if she were to dress up, she might not be worse than Liang Xiao. With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao turned around and ran back to Lung Wan, He Tian, and Zhang Yu. Zhang Yu's eyes widened. No way, Tian. You told her to stop running, and she really came back? When did she become so obedient to you? Shi Yao chuckled coldly at Zhang Yu before getting straight to the point. Well, why don't you accompany me to buy some clothes? After that, we'll go to the spa and get my hair done. He Tian reached out to touch Shi Yao's forehead and asked, You don't have a fever, so why are you suddenly acting like this? Shi Yao, Aya, don't worry about it. In any case, you're just accompanying me. Zhang Yu asked, What style are you going to dress yourself in? Is it an older sister style or a lowly style? Chapter 758. Just like that, the 4 girls began shopping around the most high-end international boutiques on the first floor. It was already close to the end of autumn, and it was already the start of winter. Nevertheless, for the sake of her beauty, Shi Yao still chose a dress that revealed her fair and slender legs. She wore a pair of heels of the same color and put on a white fur coat. Standing in front of the mirror, Shi Yao examined herself, and she couldn't help but feel a little dazzled. After shopping for the clothes, Yao didn't forget to choose a bag that complemented her outfit. After they were done shopping, the four young ladies headed to the spa on the upper floor. Yao went through a full set of deep facial treatments before heading to a beauty salon on the same floor. She first had her hair nourished before having the stylist come up with a beautiful hairstyle. Finally, she arranged for a beautician to apply an exquisite makeup on Yao. After everything was done, Yao looked at herself in the mirror for a long time. She couldn't help but feel a little lacking in confidence, so she couldn't help but ask the makeup artist, "Do you think I look good now?" "Miss, you're already very beautiful without makeup. With your current appearance, you can even participate in a beauty pageant." The stylist was a gentle young lady, and her voice was very gentle. Hearing the makeup artist's half-joking words, Yao's heart finally calmed down a little. She thanked the makeup artist before walking out of the dressing room. Lungnuan, Jiangyu, and He Tiantian, who were waiting outside, immediately stood up in delight upon seeing Yao. "Whoa, Yao, you look really beautiful now." "Indeed. You're already beautiful normally, but with this makeup, you don't pale in comparison to those celebrities on the big screen at all right?" "What do you mean by not pale in comparison to them?" "It means that you're better than them." Yao, stand there and don't move. Let me take a picture." Even without any makeup, this picture already looks like a blockbuster. Faced with her roommate's praises, Yao couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. She lowered her head and looked at her outfit for a moment before asking, "Are you sure that it's fine for me to look like this?" "Jiangyu, it's fine. Anyone who says that there's a problem is blind." He Tiantian. Yao, if this is considered a problem, then there's no one in the world who doesn't have a problem. Even with Jiang Yu and He Tiantian's affirmation, Yao still turned to look at Lung Nuan. Meeting her gaze, the usually unsmiling Lung Nuan's lips curled up into a smile, 100 points. Hearing this answer, Yao burst into laughter. She took out her phone to take a look, and before she knew it, it was already 5:30. Too engrossed in his smugness, he had forgotten to check the time. Lin Jiege and Liang Xiao were supposed to meet at 6:30 p.m. It couldn't be that he had already set off to meet Liang Xiao, could he? *T. Yao cursed inwardly as she quickly took out her phone and dialed Lin Jiege's number. Perhaps Lin Jiege's phone wasn't with him, or perhaps it was on silent mode. Yao dialed the number, but no one picked up. It wasn't until she dialed the number for the third time that someone finally answered. Before Lin Jiege could speak, Yao had already interjected, "Lin Jiege, where are you at the moment?" Chapter 759. In truth, it didn't take long. It was just a few short seconds, but the anxious Yao felt as if she had waited for a very long time. She couldn't help but ask anxiously, "Lin Jiege, I'm asking you a question. Where are you right now?" "I'm in the middle of a meeting," Lin Jiege replied in bewilderment. Noticing the anxiety in Yao's voice, he thought that something had happened to her, so he asked anxiously, "What's wrong? Did something happen?" "Meeting? Where are you holding it? It can't be a one-on-one meeting with Liang Xiao, right?" Yao subconsciously tightened her grip on her phone. Ignoring the latter half of Lin Jiege's question, she asked another question. "Where are you holding the meeting?" "Where else can it be? It's at the office." Lin Jiege's tone carried a hint of, "What kind of question is that?" Yao replied with an, "Oh," as she heaved a sigh of relief. So, Lin Jiege hadn't set off to meet Liang Xiao yet. It seemed like she could still make it in time to intercept him. With such a thought in mind, Yao asked again, "How much longer until your meeting ends?" "If it's quick, it'll take at least half an hour." After replying to Yao's question, Lin Jiege asked, Yao, what's wrong?" "Half an hour. If she were to take the subway to his office, it would only take around 10 minutes or so. That should be more than enough time." Yao's heart finally calmed down. "It's nothing much. I just wanted to ask you something. Go ahead with your meeting. I won't disturb you any longer." Saying so, Yao prepared to hang up the call. On the other end of the call, Lin Jiege seemed to realize that she was about to hang up, so he hurriedly asked, Yao, are you really fine?" "I'm really fine. I promise. I swear." Lin Jiege was silent for a few seconds on the other end of the call before replying, All right then, I'll be heading off to the meeting first. We'll talk later. Shi Yao replied with an before hanging up the call. Due to the urgency of the situation, she didn't waste any time with Lung Wan, He Tian, and Jiang Yu. Instead, she hurriedly asked them to help her bring the clothes and shoes she had changed out of back to her dormitory room. After which, she flipped through her subway card and headed for the elevator. However, before she could take a step forward, she seemed to have thought of something. She walked up to Lung Wan and asked her softly, Wan, do you think he'll look down on me if I send myself to him like this? Even though Shi Yao didn't say what she was up to, Lung Wan could roughly guess what she was up to. Even though Shi Yao didn't mention Lin Jiej's name, Lung Wan could tell that Shi Yao was going to look for him. After hearing Shi Yao's words, Lung Wan shook her head and reassured her, don't worry, he won't. If he dares to look down on you, just beat him up. If you can't defeat him, I'll do it for you. You're right. Shi Yao felt that Lung Wan's words made sense. If he dares to look down on me, I'll beat him up. If we can't defeat him, it's fine. I still have Sis Jai. After saying those words, a smile crept up Shi Yao's face as she waved goodbye to Lung Wan. Then, with her subway card in hand, she dashed toward the elevator without looking back. It happened to be the evening rush hour, so there were quite a lot of people taking the subway. Chapter 760. Fortunately, there were only 3 stops to go. 10 minutes later, Shi Yao forced herself to remain calm as she stood in the subway, pretending that she didn't notice the gazes on her. She barely managed to hold on until she reached her destination before quickly getting off the subway. Lin Jiej's company was located 100 meters away from the subway entrance. Even though Shi Yao had never been there before, it didn't take her long to find the location. She took the elevator up to the 21st floor, and as soon as she came out, she saw the logo of Lin Jiej's company. Upon seeing her, the receptionist politely asked, "Who are you looking for?" Shi Yao honestly replied with Lin Jiej's name. In truth, there were plenty of beautiful ladies who came to look for their boss, but this was the first time she had seen such a beautiful lady. So, the receptionist couldn't help but take a few more glances at Shi Yao before asking, "I have to inform him that I'm meeting Boss Lin, so may I know your name?" Shi Yao obediently replied with her name. Usually, when hiring receptionists, the boss wouldn't personally interview them, but here, Lin Jiej had personally interviewed the receptionist. Furthermore, during the interview, Lin Jiej had emphasized to her that she had to ask for the name of any lady who came to look for him. Other than his mother, his elder sister, and his aunt, the only one who was allowed to enter directly was Shi Yao. As for the other ladies, she could inform them if they were business partners, but if they weren't, she would just find an excuse and have them leave. It had been quite some time since the company was established, and there were indeed quite a few ladies who came to look for their boss. However, the one she was most curious about was Shi Yao, who had been given the green light. She had never met Shi Yao before, and now, she finally met her. After hearing Shi Yao's name, the receptionist couldn't help but take a few more glances at her. Then, she picked up the landline and made a symbolic call before letting Shi Yao in. Boss Lin is currently in the conference room. You'll see him if you walk straight in. Shi Yao politely smiled at the receptionist and thanked her before entering Lin Jiej's company. The conference room that the receptionist spoke of wasn't too difficult to find. It didn't take her long to see Lin Jiej and a dozen or so unfamiliar faces seated in the conference room through the glass window. Shi Yao was only here to intercept him, not to cause trouble. Naturally, she wouldn't disrupt Lin Jiej's conference. So, she found a place to sit down and began surveying Lin Jiej's company. Many people had yet to get off work and were busy at their desks. Most of them were men, and there were a few women who were quite old. It was only when this thought finally settled in Shi Yao's mind that she realized that she seemed to be overly sensitive toward the women around Lin Jiej. Was it because she had been a glutton since she was young that she was even a little jealous now? Shi Yao's seat wasn't too far away from the conference room. Lin Jiej had been focused on the meeting the entire time, so he didn't notice her presence at all. It was only when he noticed that there were 2 male employees glancing out of the room that he noticed. Perplexed, he followed their gazes, and it was only then that he noticed Shi Yao. What was she doing here? She had just called him and anxiously asked where he was. Was it to find him? And today, She was very special, very beautiful. No wonder his employees were so distracted in their meetings when they saw her. But then again, did she purposely come to look for him and purposely tidied herself up? Chapter 761. The product director had just finished his speech, and seeing that Lin Jiej still hadn't said anything, he couldn't help but remind him, "Boss Lin." Hearing those words, Lin Jiej immediately shifted his gaze from Shi Yao to the product director. He had heard the product director's words very clearly, but he was completely clueless about what the latter few minutes were saying. Even so, it didn't bother him too much. He calmly nodded to the product director, as if he hadn't been distracted at all. He replied with an "oh" before turning to the others in the room and asking, "What about the rest of you? Is there anything you would like to add?" Most likely, just like Zhang Xian, a few of them had been too engrossed in watching Shi Yao earlier to listen to his words. Thus, upon hearing his question, they lowered their heads. Finally, Lin Jiej turned his gaze to the marketing director and said, "Since there's nothing else to add, let's continue with the marketing department." After he was done speaking, the product director returned to his seat, and the marketing director stood up and walked over to where the product director had been standing earlier to begin his speech. Less than half a minute later, Lin Jiej's gaze suddenly drifted to Shi Yao, who was standing outside the conference room. Despite the cold weather, she was actually wearing a dress, revealing her fair and slender legs. Lin Jiej stared at Shi Yao's legs for a moment before he suddenly recalled how he had tricked her into coming back to his house, broken his bedroom door, and locked the two of them in the room. Back then, just like now, his attention had also been drawn away by her long legs. That night, his mind had been thrown into a complete mess by her. Even 1+1 had been reduced to Shi Yao's thighs in a ridiculous manner. Recalling the past, Lin Jiej couldn't help but burst into laughter. But soon, he noticed that someone was looking at him with a perplexed expression. He quickly realized that he had lost his composure in the meeting once more. He quickly composed himself and leaned against the back of his chair as he stared intently at the marketing director, who was speaking in a rhythmic manner. This time, it didn't even take half a minute for his thoughts to drift away once more. This time, he didn't allow himself to indulge in his thoughts. Instead, he quickly pulled himself together and scanned his surroundings. He noticed that the few employees who had been sneaking glances at Shi Yao were still sizing her up from time to time. His mind was already elsewhere. It seemed that the meeting could not continue. At least half of the people in the room had lost their souls. Even if they continued, it would be meaningless. No wonder people say that femme fatale. Looks like I'll have to add a rule to the receptionist later. If Softbun appears in the company, they'll have to send her to my office immediately. It's best if she doesn't loiter around the company. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej cleared his throat and said, "Let's end the meeting here." After that, he stood up and ignored the marketing director, who was staring at him blankly. He picked up the laptop and documents on the table with one hand and walked out of the conference room first. As soon as the door of the conference room closed, the people inside immediately exploded into a pot of porridge. Some of them were discussing who Shi Yao was, some were wondering what was wrong with Lin Jiej, and there were also those who saw Lin Jiej walking toward Shi Yao and gossiping about their relationship. Chapter 762. Compared to the commotion in the conference room, the area outside the conference room was much quieter. Shi Yao had rushed over in a hurry, so she hadn't thought about how she was going to do it. So, by the time she realized what was going to happen, her mind was completely focused on how she was going to speak to Lin Jiej later on. As a result, when Lin Jiej walked up to her and called her name, she didn't even notice it. "Yao Yao." Lin Jiej called out once more, only to see Shi Yao staring blankly at her feet, not reacting at all. Lin Jiej thought that Shi Yao had fallen into a daze because she had seen something fun, so he followed her line of sight, only to see a spotless floor. A slight frown appeared on Lin Jiej's forehead. He stretched out his hand and waved it lightly in front of her. Seeing that she was still staring blankly at him, not even blinking once, the frown on his forehead deepened. What's wrong with Softbun? Did she meet with some trouble? Or is she in a bad mood? With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej spoke up once more with a hint of worry in his voice, "Yao Yao?" Seeing that there was still no reaction from her, He took a step forward and half squatted down in front of her. Grabbing her arm, he asked once more, "Yao Yao, did something happen?" His touch jolted her back to her senses. Perhaps she had been lost in her thoughts for too long. Being suddenly woken up by someone caused her body to tremble slightly. She turned to look at the person in front of her. When Lin Jiej's handsome face came into view, Shi Yao, who had been thinking about how she should speak to him, suddenly became so nervous that she stuttered a little as she spoke. Lin Jiej, why, you're done with your meeting? How was he supposed to hold a meeting if she came to the company dressed up like this? Lin Jiej only dared to think of such a possibility in his mind, so he replied with a simple following which, he asked once more, "Why did you suddenly come to the company?" It would have been better if Lin Jiej hadn't asked that question, but the moment he did, the nervous Shi Yao became even more nervous. Seeing that she was unable to speak for a long time, Lin Jiej recalled how she had been in a daze earlier, and the worry on his face deepened. Did something happen? Yao Yao, don't be nervous. Speak slowly. And that's not it. Shi Yao hurriedly shook her head. Then, she turned to look at Lin Jiej, who was squatting before her, waiting for her to continue speaking. Her mind felt as if it had been filled with glue, and she was at a complete loss for words. "Hello, President Lin. Good evening, President Lin." However, before Shi Yao could say anything, an employee from the conference room walked out to greet him instead. On the surface, the employees seemed to be greeting Lin Jiej, but in truth, every single person who passed by had their gazes drifting toward Shi Yao. There were even some who kept turning back to look at her after passing by. While it was indeed a good thing that Softbun was so attractive, Lin Jiej was still a little unwilling to accept such a good thing. Seeing that Shi Yao wasn't saying a word, he thought that she probably wouldn't be able to say anything for the time being. So, he decided to take the initiative and said, "Yao Yao, let's return to my office first." Shi Yao nodded and replied with an Chapter 763. After entering the office, Lin Jiej closed the door behind him. He grabbed the remote control and pulled down all of the curtains in the office before turning to Shi Yao and asking, "Yao Yao, what's going on? Speak." Shi Yao's eyes darted around, and she stuttered for a moment before blurting out, "I want to drink water." Lin Jiej wasn't a fool. He could tell that Shi Yao was lying through her teeth, but he didn't expose her. Instead, he walked over to the counter and personally poured her a cup of warm water before passing it over to her. "Come, let's talk while we drink. I want to finish drinking first." Lin Jiej nodded with a, "as long as you're happy," look on his face. Shi Yao drank the water very slowly, taking small sips at a time. Lin Jiej wasn't in a hurry, so he patiently accompanied her. However, there was a limit to how much water she could drink. Seeing that the cup was almost empty, no matter how unwilling Shi Yao was, she had no choice but to put down the empty cup. After which, she shot a glance at Lin Jiej, and before he could say anything, she blurted out, "I want to go to the toilet." Lin Jiej pointed to the toilet with a "do as you please" look on his face. Shi Yao got up and quickly ran in. After closing the door, she patted her chest and took in deep breaths. How am I supposed to explain this to him? It's all my fault. I was too preoccupied with competing with that "see you there," and I forgot about the important matter at hand. Shi Yao paced around the toilet again and again. The more nervous she got, the more her brain couldn't think straight. Time slowly trickled by. Perhaps noticing that she wasn't coming out after so long, Lin Jiej ran over and knocked on the door. "Yao Yao, are you done? Yao Yao, are you all right? Yao Yao, if you don't come out soon, I'll kick the door down." Knowing that it was impossible for her to escape, Shi Yao braced herself and replied, "I'm fine." Then, she walked over to the sink and took a deep breath at her reflection in the mirror. Forget it. Since things have already come to this, I'll just have to improvise. If I can't stop him, I'll just beat him up. With this thought in mind, Shi Yao circled the washroom once more before her gaze finally fell on the soap box. It's made of metal, so it's pretty heavy. Shi Yao weighed the soap in her hand for 2 seconds before taking it out and tossing it to the side. She rinsed the soap box under the tap and wiped it clean with a napkin before placing it back into her bag. After which, she turned around and headed for the bathroom. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Like a warrior who would never return, she opened the door and walked out. Yao Yao, you finally came out. I thought you were still inside. Before Lin Jiej could finish his words, Shi Yao had already interjected. I remember now. The reason why I'm looking for you is to intercept you. What intercept? What was he trying to intercept? Did she think she was playing mahjong? For a moment, Lin Jiej didn't understand what Shi Yao was getting at, so he replied with a confused huh. Wasn't her intention clear enough? In order to make herself look imposing, Shi Yao puffed out her chest and continued on. I've already said what I wanted to say. I'm hungry now, so can you accompany me to eat? All right, I'm done with what I wanted to say. Chapter 764. What the heck is going on here? If not for her energetic appearance, I would have thought that she was suffering from fever. But despite his doubts, Lin Jiej didn't forget the phone call with Liang Xiao that he had put on earlier in the morning. I'm afraid that won't be possible. You should have seen it for yourself this morning. I've already made an appointment with someone, and it's almost dinner time now, so I have to set off now. Should I get my secretary to order some food for you? I already said that I'm here to intercept him. Why is he still going to dinner? Shi Yao widened her eyes in shock. She stared at Lin Jiej for a moment before asking, Are you going to meet me there? Lin Jiej was bewildered. Oh? He's going to meet me there? What does that mean? Seeing that Lin Jiej wasn't saying anything, Shi Yao thought that he was tacitly agreeing to it, so she grew even more anxious. Why are you going to meet me there? What the F***ck was going on? Lin Jiej was completely baffled. Yao Yao, what do you mean by meet me there? I didn't say that I'm going to meet you there. Since you said that you're going to meet me there, why aren't you accompanying me for dinner? You're going to meet me there. Aren't you going to meet me there? Shi Yao's words sounded like a tongue twister. The first time Lin Jiej heard those words, he didn't understand them at all. However, after repeating those words in his head twice, he finally realized what was going on. When he was on the phone with Liang Xiao this morning, he said, I'll see you there. Now, she's saying, I'll see you there. Could it be that she's referring to Liang Xiao by I'll see you there? Indescribable agitation and delight instantly filled Lin Jiej's heart. If she's really referring to Liang Xiao, does that mean that she's jealous? And when she said that she's going to intercept him, she's actually referring to Liang Xiao, preventing him from meeting Liang Xiao. Lin Jiej tried his best to suppress the surging emotions in his heart as he stared at Shi Yao and asked hesitantly, Yao Yao, are you referring to Liang Xiao? Who else? Without any hesitation, Shi Yao answered Lin Jiej's question. Is there anyone else? Could it be Li Xiao, Lin Xiao, Zhang Xiao, Sun Xiao, Xia Xiao? As the names of all sorts of surnames drifted into Lin Jiej's ears, he couldn't help but feel as if he was dreaming. It was really as he had guessed. She was really jealous. She was jealous. She was actually jealous. But her words were ambiguous. Did she recognize her own heart? Or was it just a moment of impulse? Lin Jiej held his breath and waited for the raging emotions in his heart to subside a little before saying, Yao Yao, I made a lunch appointment with Liang Xiao this morning. As you can see, it's important to have integrity. You can't go back on your word at the last minute, right? As Lin Jiej spoke, he discreetly unlocked his phone and tapped into the call log. After which, he discreetly lowered his head to glance at the screen before swiftly tapping on Liang Xiao's name and making a call. There was only a single ring before he hung up. Then, as if nothing had happened, he continued speaking. Yao Yao, I really want to have a meal with you. Before he could finish his sentence, his phone rang. Chapter 765. Lin Jiej waited until Shi Yao's gaze fell on his phone screen and saw the name on the screen before he picked up the call and raised the phone to his ear. Liang Xiao, what's wrong? Did you call me earlier for something? Lin Jiej didn't answer her question directly. No, I was held up by something. I'll head over now. After saying what he wanted to say, he hung up the phone and turned to Shi Yao. Yao Yao, I'll talk to you later. Liang Xiao has already arrived, so I can't keep her waiting. It's too rude of me to keep her waiting. I really have to go now. As he said those words, Lin Jiej walked over to the clothes rack and grabbed his coat, after which he grabbed his car keys from the office table and prepared to leave. Seriously? He's actually thinking of leaving? As expected of the only girl who had ever taught him mathematics in his junior high school, it seemed like she was quite important to him. Since that was the case, she couldn't let him leave. If he were to be taken by that girl when they met tonight, wouldn't she regret it for the rest of her life? Alarm bells rang in Shi Yao's head. No, definitely not. Since he's refusing a toast, I'll make him drink a forfeit. I might as well do as I did in the washroom and beat him up. It's fortunate that I prepared a weapon in advance. With this thought in mind, Shi Yao reached into her bag. She wanted to reach for the soapbox and knock Lin Jiej out, but Lin Jiej was already walking toward the office door. In a moment of desperation, as he was walking past her, she hurriedly took out the things that she had been randomly grabbing from her bag. It was a piece of candy. Shi Yao stared at the candy for 3 seconds before standing in front of Lin Jiej and saying, I'll treat you to a piece of candy. As she said those words, Shi Yao tore open the candy wrapper and stuffed it into Lin Jiej's mouth. The candy was cotton candy, and it melted in his mouth. Lin Jiej felt a rich sweetness before his Adam's apple moved, and the candy entered his stomach. Seeing his swallowing motion, Shi Yao raised her head to look at him and asked, You swallowed it? Lin Jiej replied with an before adding, If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave first. Before Lin Jiej could make a move, Shi Yao had already stretched out her arms to block his path. That won't do. Since you've eaten my candy, you should at least give me something in return. There's a saying called reciprocity. Have you heard of it before? Lowering his head, Lin Jiej glanced at Shi Yao's left arm, which was blocking his way, before shifting his gaze to her right arm. All right then, tell me, what do you want from me? I. Shi Yao stuttered for a moment, but thinking that if she didn't speak up now, she might not get another chance to do so in the future, she closed her eyes and roared furiously, I want you. The office was silent. A long time later, Shi Yao finally opened her eyes and looked at Lin Jiej, who was staring straight at her. I've already said all the important points, so there's no reason for me to cower anymore. Shi Yao took in a deep breath and straightened her back. Staring back into Lin Jiej's eyes, she continued, The reciprocity I want is you. You can't go to see Inexorable. I've prepared so much just to stop Inexorable who from going to see her. So, no matter what, you can't meet her today. In other words, since you've eaten my candy, you're mine. Chapter 766. In other words, as long as you eat my candy, you're mine. Holding her breath, Shi Yao stood before Lin Jiej for a long time before she realized that her palms were soaked in sweat, and her heart was pounding furiously. Pong pong pong, pong pong. Shi Yao roared out everything she wanted to say. The office was still silent. Lin Jiej, why isn't there any reaction from him? Could it be that I didn't express myself clearly enough? Shi Yao secretly assessed Lin Jiej, who was standing in front of her. His face was calm and composed, devoid of any emotions. Could it be that her earlier words weren't sincere enough? Shi Yao pondered for a moment, and she felt that her earlier words might have been too arrogant. It didn't seem like a confession, so she looked at Lin Jiej and pondered for a moment before saying, Lin Jiej, in truth, she hadn't really thought about how she was going to say those words to him. Even her earlier reaction was an improvisation. But at this moment, she had no idea what was wrong with her. After calling out his name, the words that she wanted to say just flowed out of her mouth. You said that you like me. You also said that it's fine, and that you can ask me about it after some time. There was a slight tremor in Shi Yao's voice. Well, it's about time. You can ask me about it now. Lin Jiej remained silent. Shi Yao urged anxiously once more. Hurry up and ask, Lin Jiej. As if a statue, Lin Jiej didn't budge at all. She had already expressed her intentions so clearly, so why was he still so indifferent? With a slight frown on her forehead, Shi Yao moved her lips, determined to see it through to the end. She wanted to tell him directly that she liked him, and that they could be together. But before she could say those words, the man who had been standing motionlessly before her suddenly turned around and disappeared from the entrance of the washroom like a gust of wind. As the door slammed shut, Yao widened her eyes in shock. What did he mean by that? Why did he ignore her and run off to the washroom? At the very least, when he confessed to her, she would say sorry or something. Besides, even if he suddenly needed to pee, he should at least tell her. The most basic courtesy, right? Yao's cheeks puffed up in anger. She glared at the door of the washroom with her large black eyes, as if she would tear a hole right through it. After slamming the door shut, Lin Jiej leaned against the door for a long while before he finally raised his head to look at his reflection in the mirror. This nose, these eyes, and this mouth. It's really him. In other words, Yao's earlier words were really directed at Lin Jiej. I want you. No matter what, you can't go see her today. In short, if you eat my candy, you're mine. It's about time. You can ask me now. As those words echoed in Lin Jiej's ears, his fingertips began to tremble uncontrollably. Soft Bun was confessing her feelings to him. He had waited for so long, and this day had finally arrived. Chapter 767. Leaning against the door, Lin Jiej's lips curled into a smile. His smile grew wider and wider. In the end, there was even a slight chuckle coming from the corner of his mouth. All of a sudden, pong pong pong, sounds of knocking came from the door behind him, followed by Yao's shout, Lin Jiej! Lin Jiej! It was then that Lin Jiej suddenly remembered that he had left Soft Bun alone outside. He hurriedly straightened his body and buried the joy that had filled his chest in the depths of his heart before reaching out to pull open the door. Yao was standing at the door. As soon as Lin Jiej opened the door, he saw her. Meeting her gaze, Lin Jiej's lips couldn't help but curl up once more. He didn't say a word to her. Instead, he brushed past her and headed for the door. He's still ignoring me? Yao blinked her eyes as she followed Lin Jiej's footsteps and turned around. Is he leaving? Where is he going? To look for that guy? Yao suddenly felt a little regretful for wasting her breath on him earlier. She should have been more straightforward and knocked him out with the soapbox. With such thoughts in mind, Yao reached into her bag and took out the soapbox. She gripped the soap case tightly and aimed it at the back of Lin Jiej's head. Just as she was about to shout for him to stop and smash the soap case mercilessly into his head, Lin Jiej, who was leisurely walking forward with his back facing her, suddenly placed his right hand behind his back and beckoned her over with his 5 fingers. Lin Jiej, what does he mean by this? It can't be that he's asking me to follow him, right? Grabbing the soapbox, Yao stared at Lin Jiej's hand and studied it for a moment. Perhaps it was because she wasn't following him, but his beckoning became even more intense. It looks like it's really what I'm thinking. Without any hesitation, Yao ran a few steps in her high heels to catch up to Lin Jiej. Hearing her footsteps, Lin Jiej slowed down significantly. When she finally caught up to him, he lowered his head slightly to look at her before reaching out to take her bag from her left hand. Very quickly, he switched her bag to his other hand. Then with the hand holding her bag, he pushed open the office door. With the other hand, which had just been freed, he grabbed her wrist and led her out of the office. There were still quite a few people who hadn't gotten off work yet. While they didn't dare to look at Lin Jiej and Yao in the eye, their attention was still focused on them. On the other hand, Lin Jiej seemed to be completely oblivious to the curious gazes directed at him from the crowd. Pulling Yao along, he slowly moved his palm downward. All of a sudden, Yao felt a little nervous. She subconsciously withdrew her hand, but she couldn't escape from his grasp. His hand continued to slide down until his palm completely wrapped around her little hand. Only then did he stop. Then he tightly held her hand and walked out of the elevator. His palm was big and warm, and Yao's heart couldn't help but race. We're going to hold hands just like that? Yao stared at the hand that Lin Jiej was holding tightly onto for a moment before she tiptoed over to his side and muttered, Lin Jiej, I'm telling you, as long as you hold my hand, you'll be my dog. Aren't I your dog? Chapter 768. Doesn't that make you a little bitch? Of course not. I'm a human, and you're a dog. Yes, 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 we're a beauty and a beast. Yao was amused by Lin Jiej's reply. The elevator stopped at the underground car park, and just as Lin Jiej was leading Shiyao out, Shiyao asked curiously, "Where are we going? Aren't you hungry? I'm going to accompany you for dinner." "Oh," Shiyao replied. Recalling how he rejected her earlier, she couldn't help but ask, "You already have a dinner date with someone, and it's already past 6:30 now. You're already late, so it wouldn't be nice if you don't head over now, right?" "Is that so? I think it's a good idea." Lin Jiej first helped Shiyao with her seatbelt before fastening it for himself. No. It's really not a good idea. You can just send me back to school and have your secretary order a takeaway for me. Besides, a person should have integrity. You can't go back on your word at the last minute." Those were his exact words. Was Soft Bun trying to settle the score with him? As Lin Jiej started the car, he replied without any hesitation, "A person should have integrity, but it depends on the person. For example, I have to be honest with you, but for outsiders, it depends on the situation." Outsiders. Those two words had successfully coaxed Shiyao. "You mean to say that you're an outsider? What about me? My wife?" Lin Jiej's lips curled up. "I couldn't ask for more." What couldn't ask for more? With a slight frown on her forehead, she went through the words that she had just said in her head once more. "Wife. Doesn't that mean wife?" Shiyao's face immediately reddened. "Lin Jiej, you're going too far. You set me up." "I didn't." "I did." "I really didn't." I did. "All right, I did." Before Shiyao could say anything, Lin Jiej had already asked, "What do you want to eat? Roast duck? Kung Pao chicken? Mala fragrant pot?" Shiyao was successfully led astray by Lin Jiej. Tilting her head, she began thinking about food. Eventually, Lin Jiej brought Shiyao to a roast duck restaurant. Halfway through the meal, Shiyao suddenly recalled that Lin Jiej hadn't gone to meet invisibly, and he hadn't called invisibly either. So, she couldn't help but ask, "You didn't go to meet invisibly, and you didn't tell her either?" "No." Lin Jiej, who was still focused on helping Shiyao roll the roast duck, replied. "Then why didn't she call you to ask why you didn't go?" Lin Jiej didn't think too much into it, but he knew that Shiyao was still immersed in her jealousy. He passed the duck meat patty to her and replied, "I don't have any." "Oh," Shiyao replied as she took the burrito and stuffed it into her mouth. After swallowing it, she began mocking Lin Jiej without any hesitation. "It looks like you aren't that important to meet me not leave you after all." For a moment, Lin Jiej was still in a daze. He glanced at Shiyao and asked, "Am I wrong?" "Look, the two of you agreed to meet invisibly at 6:30 p.m., but it's already been 2 hours, and she hasn't called to ask about you at all. This goes to show that you aren't important to her at all." Chapter 769. Without thinking too much about it, Shiyao picked up the spoon and started drinking the soup. It was only after she was done that she realized that this was the bowl and spoon that Lin Jiej had used. In other words, the bowl that his lips and tongue had touched was the same bowl that she had touched with her lips and tongue. Shiyao's face burned furiously. "But this is your bowl and spoon," Lin Jiej replied calmly with an M. Shiyao lowered her head and muttered softly, "I have my own bowl and spoon." Without saying a word, Lin Jiej rolled up another duck patty and placed it on Shiyao's plate. When Shiyao was done eating the duck patty, Lin Jiej whispered into Shiyao's ear, "It's not like I haven't eaten this before." It took Shiyao a moment to process what was going on. Blinking her eyes in shock, she exclaimed, "Ah?" Lin Jiej didn't say a word. Instead, he shot a meaningful glance at his bowl and spoon. Shiyao stared blankly at Lin Jiej's bowl and spoon for a moment before realization dawned on her. What was he referring to earlier? He was telling her that she had kissed him before, so it was fine for her to eat with the same bowl and spoon. In public, how could he talk to her about this kind of topic? Shiyao glared at Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej chuckled softly as he leaned closer to her ear and whispered, "Besides, you'll have to eat it often in the future. You'll get used to it." "Ah, you scoundrel." Shiyao's face burned even hotter. She buried her head in her food, not even bothering to glare at Lin Jiej. By the time they were done eating and returned to the car, it was already 9:30 p.m. Lin Jiej asked, "Where are we going?" Shiyao replied matter-of-factly, back to school. I still have lessons tomorrow morning. Lin Jiej replied with an "oh." Then, he thought that he was being too impatient, even though he was anxious to bring her home. Unable to drive into the school, Lin Jiej parked his car at the parking lot closest to the school. Then, just like when they left the company, he held Shi Yao's hand tightly as they walked toward the school. When they were about to reach the entrance of the academy, Shi Yao suddenly felt a little embarrassed. She tried to struggle free from Lin Jiej's hand, but she failed. Seeing that it was already late at night, and there weren't many people walking around the academy, she decided to just let him hold her hand and lead her back to the dormitory. Along the way, Lin Jiej and Shi Yao chatted idly with one another. What do you want to eat tomorrow? Shi Yao pondered for a moment before replying. I feel like eating hot pot. What about the day after tomorrow? Cantonese? What about the day after tomorrow? What about the day after tomorrow? Shi Yao thought as she replied to Lin Jiej's question. What about the day after tomorrow? Then, when will you consider eating me? What? It's nothing. Oh. Seeing that he was getting closer and closer to the female dormitory, Lin Jiej's footsteps slowed down significantly. Seeing that Zhang Xian's footsteps had slowed down, Shi Yao followed suit. Just as they were about to reach the female dormitory, Shi Yao whispered to Lin Jiej, I'm almost there, Lin Jiej replied. After which, he halted his footsteps and said, I still have something that I need to do. Seeing that Zhang Xian had come to a halt, Shi Yao followed suit and asked, What is it? Lin Jiej didn't say a word. Instead, he scanned his surroundings. Shi Yao couldn't help but ask, What is it? But before she could finish her words, Lin Jiej suddenly pulled her behind a relatively hidden tree. A second before she could lean against the tree trunk, Lin Jiej lowered his head and pressed his lips against hers. Chapter 770. Shi Yao felt something soft on her lips, and before she could even make sense of what was going on, her breath had already been snatched away by him. Her mind went blank, and she lost all ability to think. She stared at his hair, which was right before her eyes. She fell into a daze for a very long time, and it wasn't until her mouth and nostrils were filled with his scent that she finally realized that he had kissed her. His lips were warm, soft, and carried a gentle force that she couldn't resist, constantly invading her lips. In the instant that he pried open her lips, her entire body shuddered, and she grew increasingly nervous. Her limbs stiffened as she leaned against the tree, as if someone had sealed her acupoints. She didn't dare to move in the slightest. He was still kissing her, and the breath in her chest was slowly being sucked dry by him. Yet, she didn't feel any discomfort at all. In fact, unbeknownst to herself, her hand had already grabbed onto his shirt. Perhaps it was her subtle reaction that pleased him, but his kiss suddenly became gentle and slow. She couldn't help but close her eyes and lose herself in the kiss. Both of their breaths gradually became erratic. Behind the empty tree, due to the silence, both of them could hear each other's unstable breathing. Her face grew redder, his body temperature grew hotter, and their hearts beat faster. Just as Shi Yao felt as if her heart was about to leap out of her throat, Lin Jiej finally released her. Both of them remained in the same position they had just kissed. Her heart was still beating furiously. Thump, thump, thump. She could still hear the powerful heartbeats coming from his chest. Thump, thump, thump. In the end, their hearts beat in the same rhythm. After an unknown period of time, Lin Jiej suddenly reached out and held her face in his hands. Using his slender fingers, he lifted her face up and moved the strands of hair that had fallen by the corner of her eyes to the side. Staring into her eyes, he said, Repeat what you said in my office back then. Those were words that she had said in a moment of desperation. How could she possibly repeat them now? Shi Yao didn't say a word. Why aren't you talking? I've never heard such an unconventional confession before. Why don't you say it one more time for me to hear it? Seeing that Shi Yao's face was still red, Lin Jiej asked once more, His voice was exceptionally gentle, causing Shi Yao's body to tremble uncontrollably. She turned her head away, refusing to look at him as she replied softly, No?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No. Then, her lips were sealed by him again. Compared to the previous kiss, this kiss was more ferocious. He seemed to be doing it on purpose. He only let go of her when she struggled. "Are you going to tell me or not?" Seeing that she didn't show any signs of opening her mouth, he leaned towards her lips again. This time, before his lips could touch hers, she softly said, "I came to find you. I'm here to stop you. Yes, and I've said what I wanted to say. Now I'm hungry. Can you accompany me to eat?" Continue. Chapter 771. What else? That's all. Are you sure? Lin Jie gestured for another kiss on Shi Yao's lips. "No, I'm not too sure." Lin Jie suddenly chuckled softly. "Hurry up and say it then." I. Shi Yao stuttered for a long time, but she was unable to say anything. Lin Jie's fingertips fell on the corner of Shi Yao's lips, and he stroked her lips repeatedly. In fact, his face was gradually inching closer and closer to hers. Just as his lips were about to press against hers, Shi Yao suddenly closed her eyes, and with a look that seemed as if she was looking at death calmly, she muttered the words that had eluded her for the longest time. I want you." Her final words disappeared from his lips. Compared to the previous two kisses, Lin Jie's strength was far greater this time. It was as if he wanted nothing more than to tear Shi Yao's bones apart and devour her. In fact, he even grabbed the back of her head and deepened the kiss. Very soon, their breathing became chaotic once more. Compared to the previous two kisses, it was much more messy. He couldn't help but press his body against hers. Even though they were outdoors, Shi Yao could still sense a dangerous aura from Lin Jie. She suddenly felt a little afraid, and subconsciously, she began to struggle, but he held her down tightly, unwilling to let her go. He pressed his lips against hers and kissed them again and again. It was only when he felt his rationality gradually crumbling that he managed to restrain himself in time. He released her lips and buried his face in her neck, taking deep breaths. Shi Yao's heart was beating incredibly quickly. She leaned against the tree trunk, not daring to move an inch. After a long time, she finally sensed that Lin Jie's breathing had calmed down significantly. Only then did she move her body slightly and say softly, "I should go back now." Lin Jie replied with an but he had no intention of letting go of her. Just as Shi Yao was about to remind Lin Jie again, he suddenly straightened his back, lowered his head, and stared into her eyes. Without any warning, he said, "Yao Yao, didn't you tell me that I told you something earlier in the office? It's fine. I'll ask you about it later." At this point, Lin Jie paused for a moment before his eyes suddenly lit up. "Yao Yao, may I ask if I can openly like you now?" Hearing those words, Shi Yao suddenly felt even more nervous than when he'd kissed her so passionately earlier. With a reddened face, she replied with a soft "Yao Yao, this is the happiest moment of my life." Lin Jie suddenly burst into laughter, and it was as if thousands of pear blossoms were blooming on a single pear tree. Hearing those words, Shi Yao's heart skipped a beat. Lin Jie reached out to stroke her long hair and said, "Let's go." With that, he straightened his body and held her hand. "If you don't leave now, you won't be able to leave tonight." Shi Yao didn't react in time. She allowed Lin Jie to lead her out of the tree and toward the female dormitory. Just as they were about to reach the entrance of the dormitory, Shi Yao finally understood what he meant by those words. She flung his hand away and shouted, "You scoundrel!" Lin Jie didn't get angry at all. Instead, he reached out to grab Shi Yao's hand with a smile. Chapter 772. Lin Jie squeezed Shi Yao's soft and supple hand. Then, just as they were about to reach the entrance of the female dormitory, he suddenly pulled her over to him. Catching her off guard, he lowered his head and planted a kiss on Shi Yao's forehead. "Good night, Lin Jie's girlfriend." It was just a light kiss, but his clean and fragrant scent still filled her breath. Shi Yao's heart skipped a beat. All of a sudden, she found herself at a loss for words. In the end, she simply replied with a soft before turning around and running back into the dormitory. Shi Yao took a deep breath and ran back to her dormitory room. Leaning against the door, She raised her hand and touched her glabella before touching her lips. Recalling how he had addressed her as Lin Jiej's girlfriend, she couldn't help but giggle foolishly. When she finally came back to her senses, she realized that Tian and Jiang Yu were assessing her from head to toe, as if they were looking at a fool. "Why are all of you surrounding me?" Shi Yao asked nervously. Jiang Yu said, "You shouldn't be asking us, right? We should be the ones asking you. May I ask what that amorous smile of yours meant?" Shi Yao stubbornly replied, "Since when did I fall in love?" Tian, "Fine, you didn't. You're just letting your imagination run wild. Can you get to the point now? Amorous feelings and fantasies? Was there a difference?" Shi Yao's lips twitched. "I'm going to take a bath." Jiang Yu didn't panic in the slightest as she watched Shi Yao's departing silhouette. "It's fine. We'll know even if you don't say anything." Tian nodded her head cooperatively. "That's because when I was hanging the clothes on the balcony earlier, I happened to look down from the window and saw Senior Lin kissing you." Shi Yao's back stiffened for a moment before she hastened her footsteps. Without looking back, she dashed into the washroom and slammed the door shut. Lin Jiej didn't return home. Instead, he returned to room 501, which he hadn't returned to for a very long time. Pushing open the door, Xia Shangzhou, who was in the middle of eating instant noodles, and Lu Binlai, who was in the middle of reading a novel, saw Lin Jiej and widened their eyes in shock. "Xia Shangzhou, boss, why did you suddenly return to the dorm?" Lu Binlai, "Is there a need to ask? Boss must have missed me." Xia Shangzhou spat, "Tui, you shameless bastard." Lu Binlai, "Your skin is already as thick as the heavens. Do you still have any shame?" Faced with the long-awaited scene of the two of them bickering with one another, Lin Jiej leisurely walked over to his table, pulled out a chair, and took a seat. Then, as he switched on his laptop, he recalled the scenes he had shared with Shi Yao tonight, and his lips couldn't help but curl up. Noticing Lin Jiej smile, Lu Binlai immediately stopped bickering with Xia Shangzhou and asked, "Boss, did something good happen to you?" Hearing Lu Binlai's words, Xia Shangzhou also turned to Lin Jiej and asked, "Boss, did you sign a huge contract recently?" I signed a lifetime contract." Lin Jiej typed on the keyboard and entered the password for his computer. Lu Binlai, lifetime contract? What was going on? Which company? Xia Shangzhou, or is there someone else who stupidly signed a lifetime contract just like me? Lu Binlai, at least you have some self-awareness. You know that you're a fool. Chapter 773. Xia Shangzhou replied calmly with an, "Oh, before ah?" After which, he leaped over to Lin Jiej's side and bellowed, "Boss, what did you say? You're no longer single?" "You're no longer single, just like Song Chaoshi? But at least I have little Lai Lai to accompany me. I'm not alone anymore." Lu Binlai, "No, you're alone. I can only be considered as half a single dog. After all, I have a goal, and you don't even have one. You're a bona fide single dog." As he spoke, Lu Binlai turned to Lin Jiej and said, "Boss, congratulations on tying the knot with Little Junior. May the two of you live happily ever after." Xia Shangzhou, "How do you know that it's definitely Little Junior?" Lu Binlai looked at Xia Shangzhou as if he was looking at an idiot. Lin Jiej looked at Xia Shangzhou as if he was tired of living. Xia Shangzhou hurriedly replied, "I was just joking. Of course I know that boss has feelings for Little Junior. Other than Little Junior, there's no one else who can make boss leave his single life." Lu Binlai's gaze turned from one of looking at an idiot to one of disdain. Then, he turned to Lin Jiej and asked, "Boss, will you still love little Lai Lai after you have Little Junior?" Xia Shangzhou nodded vehemently. "That's right. Boss, will you still bring us to golden resplendence in the future?" While typing on the keyboard, Lin Jiej replied, "Firstly, I've never loved you. Secondly, from now on, I no longer have the final say in our family's finances, so whether we can go to golden resplendence or not will depend on Yao Yao. Lastly, why did the two of you ask such a humiliating question?" Lu Binlai clutched his heart. Heartache, suffocation, critical strike, death. Xia Shangzhou, death together. Ignoring the two of them, Lin Jiej continued typing on the keyboard for a while longer. Then, As the two remaining single dogs of room 501, he realized that they were indeed quite pitiful. Thus, he stopped typing and pondered for a moment before speaking up. Since the two of you seem to be quite pitiful, Lu Binlai immediately resurrected on the spot. Boss, I knew that you weren't the kind of person who would abandon me. Xia Shangzhou, boss, I know I'm still very important in your heart. Have you decided to bring us to golden resplendence? That's not it. Without any hesitation, Lin Jiej refuted the duo's words. I just wanted to tell you that, on account of how pitiful the two of you are, I'll bring Yao Yao to visit you during the Qingming festival every year after your deaths. Lu Binlai, Xia Shangzhou, Lu Binlai. I'm going to take a bath. Xia Shangzhou. I'm going to continue eating instant noodles with this dog food. Lin Jiej calmly retracted his gaze and continued typing on the keyboard. It didn't take long for Lu Binlai to finish his bath. It was already November, but Beijing wasn't heating up yet. Lu Binlai couldn't help but shiver. It's so cold. Xia Shangzhou nodded. Yes, it's not warm at all. Did I? Lin Jiej, who was still typing on the keyboard, raised his hand and massaged his slightly sore neck. I feel like spring has arrived. It's pretty warm. Lu Binlai. He shouldn't have been so shameless. He was fed dog food again. Xia Shangzhou. That grandson Lu Binlai. Why did he have to provoke our boss? Chapter 774. Oh right, there's something that I forgot to ask you to change Yao Yao's name on your WeChat to Lin Jiej's girlfriend. Without any hesitation, Xia Shangzhou shook his head vehemently. Can I reject it? Lu Binlai nodded his head cooperatively. +1. I want to reject it too. They didn't want to be fed dog food by their boss in real life, and then be fed dog food in their phones all the time. Lin Jiej remained calm in the face of their rejection. If you think you can reject it, feel free to do so. After saying those words, Lin Jiej didn't head to the washroom. Instead, he stood on the spot and stared at Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou. This is clearly a threat. Xia Shangzhou muttered under his breath as his heart began to tremble. Compared to Xia Shangzhou, Lu Binlai was a wise man, and he quickly found a way out for himself. It's not that I can't change it, but boss, you have to change Lung Nuan's name to Lu Binlai's little wife. Lu Binlai's little wife? Why does this name sound so alluring? Lin Jiej's lips twitched a little before he nodded his noble head and said, Sure. After which, Lin Jiej paused for a moment before adding, But I don't have her WeChat right now. I'll change it when I have one in the future. In other words, since you have my girlfriend's WeChat, you have to change it right now. All right. Lu Binlai swiftly changed Shi Yao's name to Lin Jiej's girlfriend. After taking a look, Lin Jiej replied with a satisfied before turning his gaze to Xia Shangzhou, who was seated by the side. His ally had already betrayed him, so Xia Shangzhou surrendered without any hesitation. After watching Lu Binlai change his name, Lin Jiej finally turned around and leisurely walked into the washroom. Xia Shangzhou stared at the Lin Jiej's girlfriend that he had personally marked down, and his heart began to bleed. Both he and Little Lai Lai were single dogs, so why was Little Lai Lai able to negotiate with their boss, while he didn't even have anyone to negotiate with? They were all humans, so why did he end up in such a miserable state? After her bath, she was surrounded by Tian Jiangyue, and Jiang Yu for a very long time. It wasn't until they had a rough understanding of what had happened between her and Lin Jiej that they finally let her off. By the time she climbed into bed, it was already past midnight. Just as she was about to set her alarm, she saw a message from Lin Jiej. Are you asleep? It was sent 20 minutes ago. I wonder if he's asleep yet. Shi Yao pondered for a moment before replying, Not yet. Lin Jiej, what are you doing? Shi Yao. I was chatting with Jiang Yu, Tian, and the others earlier. Lin Jiej. I see. A second later, Lin Jiej called back. Lung Nuan and the others weren't asleep yet, so Shi Yao answered the call. Don't you have classes tomorrow morning? Why aren't you asleep yet? Time to sleep. Lin Jiej replied with an oh. Chapter 775. What? Shi Yao was taken aback. Didn't you say it yourself? Whoever holds your hand is your dog. Those words jolted Yao back to her senses. She did say that, so when he said this dog, he was referring to himself. And when he said eat dog meat, he was referring to eat him? Yao's face suddenly reddened. Lin Jiej, you pervert. She was clearly scolding him, but in his ears, it sounded as if she was praising him. He chuckled softly once more. His voice was very pleasant to the ears, and it made her heart tremble along with it. But this wonderful feeling didn't last for too long before Lin Jiej's voice sounded once more. Is this what you call a pervert? There's something even more perverted. Do you want to hear it? Why, you're not allowed to say it. Yao hurriedly interrupted Lin Jiej. Fearing that he would go overboard with his words, she feigned a furious look and threatened, if you dare to say it, I'll never talk to you again. All right, I won't say it anymore. Yao heaved a sigh of relief. But before she could finish heaving a sigh of relief, Lin Jiej spoke up once more. I only make. At first, Yao didn't understand what Lin Jiej meant. She thought that he was referring to I only make, so she was about to ask him what he was going to make. But just as she was about to say those words, she recalled what he had said earlier and realized that she had fainted. How was he talking about I only make? He was clearly saying, I won't say it. I only make, do. Yao's face burned even hotter. She had already told him not to say it, and even though he had agreed to it, his following words were even more overboard. He's really going too far. He's a pervert, an invincible pervert in the entire universe. Yao racked her brains for a long time, but she could only come up with these two words to scold Lin Jiej. It was clearly not lethal enough, but she couldn't allow him to gain the upper hand just like that, could she? Just as Yao was thinking about how she should retaliate against Lin Jiej, she suddenly recalled how she had inadvertently found out that Mr. Numbers was Lin Jiej during He Tiantian's birthday celebration. At the time, she only cared about being touched. Later, when she saw him, she was afraid that they would really run away. She only cared about being anxious. Later, when he sent her back to the dorm, she was so happy that she almost forgot about it. Perhaps it was due to Yao's silence that Lin Jiej finally spoke up on the other end of the call. Yao. Fearing that he would go overboard with his words, Yao abruptly interjected, Lin Jiej, do you dare to add my WeChat? Lin Jiej was taken aback by the sudden turn of events. HM? Yao repeated her earlier words one by one. Say, Lin Jiej, do you dare to add me on WeChat? There was no sound from the other end of the line. Lin Jiej, why aren't you saying anything? Don't tell me you won't even add me on WeChat? Lin Jiej, no. Yao, you just won't add me on WeChat. Lin Jiej paused for 2 seconds. I don't have WeChat. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.